All right, here we go. Good morning, everybody. I am Todd Obert, President and CEO of Productive Corporation. Joined alongside me in his lab coat with a magnifying glass is Pete Greco, our VP of Sales and Technology. He is the one who's going to be talking to you about network health and how to improve your security without breaking the bank. If you have come to our broadcast in the past and know how we do it, thank you. For those who are new to our webinar series, here's what we like to do. We like to get through all the fluff very quickly and get on to the meat of the presentation so that you can get back to your day. To that end, we will meet Productive in 1 minute, and then we will hop right into the presentation. So buckle up. Here we go. Who is Productive Corp, you ask? Well, thank you. I appreciate you asking. Productive provides security solutions for mid-size companies. We have in-house expertise, so we can help you with licensing, technical questions, so that you don't have to navigate the world all by your lonesome. We also implement, test, and optimize what we sell. In addition to that, we can do a full security assessment. We can help you with an Active Directory security review, as well as we can implement and optimize the products that we sell. So that could be UTM, could be endpoint, could be encryption. Another thing that we do is we offer what we believe to be valuable third-party content for the mid-market. We do things like our webinars. We put a lot of stuff on our website. We also have a YouTube channel. All of this you can find at productivecorp.com/content. The bottom line is we have a ton of resources to help you, whether it's implementation, assessment, licensing, or optimization services. We are here to help. Give us a call, shoot us an email. Let us know what we can do for you. One of the ways that we do help is by doing these educational webinars. Our customers asked us years ago, hey, what's happening in the mid-market? What are my peers doing? What are you guys seeing? And that's really what started us doing the Productive Webinar Series. A long time ago, we just did product-focused stuff, and about 2 or 3 years ago, we really started focusing on the Knowledge Series, and we started taking data that we'd learned, experiences we had out in the real world, to share across all of our customers and prospects and say, hey, here are some best practices. Here are some things to think about. Here are some ways you might want to approach your own network or validate that you're doing the right things. So to that end, we are going to be talking about 5 ways to improve network security. As you know, very hot topic, and always very hard, easier to say than to do, but the man that will help us figure that out is Pete Greco. As I mentioned at the top of the broadcast, Pete is our VP of Sales and Technology and has literally helped thousands of customers with their security and improving their security posture. So hopefully he's on the line. Let's give a warm virtual round of applause to Mr. Pete Greco. Pete?
Hello, hello, hello. Thanks so much, T.O., for the warm introduction. And thanks, everybody, for hopping on with us. Really appreciate your time. We're going to make it as quick as we can while still giving you some good meat to this presentation. So, Todd, hopefully you're looking at the right monitor. Do you see the agenda slide?
I absolutely do.
All right, let's get this show moving forward. Why do networks have issues? Darned if I know. I'm going to be honest with you, right? Lots of reasons, actually. Part of it is, and this is kind of what we run into a little bit, is not the original person who put it together. Didn't build all the components. Not sure what the original thought process was. New gear mixed in with old gear. Not everything's at the same patch level. Some things, and this was a lot of fun we used to have when we had a small business server 2003 running on the same network with some server 08 and even a server 2012 box. Some stuff just simply wasn't supported. Or back in the day, getting our iPhones running with small business server 2003. When that thing was developed, there were no smartphones yet. So it didn't support a lot of stuff right out of the box. So you just run into some of that stuff. And now we're adding in the new wrinkle of running some of our server room out of the cloud, running cloud applications and mixing some of that stuff in with all of our office spaces, right? So creates a lot of complexity in there. So the next thing that causes us a little bit is the end users, you know, and unfortunately, end users don't get smarter just because we think they're dumb, right? They're not stepping up to that challenge. We got to help them get there, and we got to figure out ways to get them to join us in making our environments more secure. Now, they're not going to be in charge of the anti-spam appliance. They're not going to be in charge of configuring Office 365 or this kind of stuff. But they are out there bringing shadow IT into the environment. We got to help them get them, or we got to get them to help us understand what they need to do so we can help them find secure ways of doing it. We got to continue to educate them on phishing and passwords, why password complexity, how can you manage it, how can you stay on top of this stuff, right? And some of these folks just simply need to understand that there's a lot of tools out there to help them. One of my favorite things that I got from one of our clients, every one of their security folks had it in their signature, Windows key L every time you take a break. Why lock that screen, right? Help them understand, especially if you're in a public environment where a machine could be grabbed or could be easily viewed. Let's lock those boxes if we're not sitting at the console. You know, and how do we find help getting some of this training? I think one of the things that we see frequently that IT departments try and pull off is building their own phishing training, for example. And you sure can, but it's timely and it's not always as effective as going out and purchasing something. Right, a pre-built training. It's got the phishing templates already built for you. It's got videos. It's got helpful links that you can send out versus creating all this stuff on your own. We see a lot of folks who phish their end users, but then don't do any follow-up. That doesn't get you there. You find out that half the people failed. What's the follow-up, right? And so that's some areas where I think we can all get to a brand new level. Let's get to the tips before we run out of time, right? So the 5 ways to improve and consider. Number 1, and not necessarily the number 1 area where you should start, but we had to start somewhere, right? And these are going to be 5 great areas. So firewall setup, reviewing those old policies, getting rid of stale policies, things that are no longer a part of your environment where you've got even open ports or port forwards. Get rid of that stuff, right?
Hey,
are you taking it? Yeah.
Do you have an order of magnitude when we do some firewall gateway reviews, what the number of policies we find that are not needed or redundant? Just any kind of sense of that? Yeah.
There's lots of number.
Yeah.
Many?
Yeah.
I'm not sure which is more, lots or many, because it's whichever one is more. Rarely, and I'm not going to say never, because we're about ready to do a project where the client, we actually just met with him last week, he's starting off by cleaning up all the policies out of the old firewall that they're getting rid of, so that they have kind of a clean template to migrate into the new setup. Rarely do we hear that kind of thing happening, and rarely do we see somebody go in and do that unless they've had a penetration test or a vulnerability assessment where we've come in and identified specific things for them to do. So I'm not going to say that but it definitely does not happen nearly enough. And with configurations in general, Todd, the thing that we see and have been guilty of, you know, I am recognizing that as I'm pointing fingers, I've got 3 fingers pointing right back at me, right, is you continue to add capabilities, continue to add permissions, continue to create new things in the environment, but we're not as robust at deleting, and removing and eliminating
Yeah, more
those
people
things.
just layer on. They put something new on. They add. They don't understand, oh, this might be redundant, this might be a conflict, or this might be creating inadvertently a security, or weakening my security posture.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's not even that people don't know, right? But it's a lot of times it's the time to come back. And a great example of that is we have 2 service accounts in our AD, and I am trying to figure out if we can delete them. And I identified them on Monday. And here we are Wednesday midday, and I have not actually started the investigation. It's on the list, but I have not done anything, and we could very well get to Friday before I go back and take a look at those, right? And an easy thing to do is disable, and I heard somebody say, you want to figure out what your good accounts are, disable everything and let people start calling in. Well, that's not a smooth way to conduct your business operations, right? Would it work? It sure would work, right? And then you figure out what needs to get back on and figure out what apps aren't running and go and enable those service accounts. But you would be down for for a huge chunk of time, depending on how many users and service accounts you had. So that's not a great way to go there, right? So definitely this is a great place to start, getting rid of those old policies, looking at the features that you have on your gateway. Are you using them all? Another common thing that we run into is, we had intended to use the anti-spam or the web filter as a part of my UTM or the IPS or whatever, and it slowed things down, and we never really came back and figured it out. Or it slowed things down because you needed a bigger model, maybe, and never made that move. And so rather than getting the appropriate gear, we're running a smaller box without the security features that we need, right? A lot of folks are taking advantage of pen testing to improve the security posture, and it's absolutely a vital component to assessing, right? But one of the areas where folks are getting compromised is when a machine that's been infected, potentially on the network, potentially off the network, is trying to phone home, right? So part of that pen test needs to include testing a compromised machine that's inside the perimeter. Is that going to be outbound? Is that going to create an open port? So taking that pen testing to the next level is a great thing to be thinking about. Reviewing your endpoint strategy, and this is another thing that we see all too often. We upgraded our program so that we could take advantage of something like an application control or device control, or maybe some DLP or whatever feature or features were interesting, and then they never get turned on, right? You recognized through the demo, through the trial, that this could get your security to the next level. Trying to configure this, life gets in the way, business gets in the way. Maybe there's some errors or issues with getting it turned on that never get resolved, and they end up being off features that could be improving security, right? So getting that stuff on. Alert and error fatigue, and this really probably could have been on the firewall slide as well. Get rid of those alerts and errors, and if you're getting too many alerts, if you've got something that is on that should be off, or is off and should be on, that's continuously alerting you, take a minute and get that fixed. Get those alerts set properly. Get that stuff as much as you can done up front, and that's a great thing to rely on your partner for, to get those alerts and errors or alerts set correctly, so that you're not getting a bunch of errors that you don't need to see, but that every time an error does come through, it's something you need to take action on. Another huge issue that we run into all the time is not being 100% deployed. You bought all the licenses for the machines, get them out there, right? And frequently what we see is there's a couple of machines that simply are not working for a rip and replace, or or had some issues, or maybe they've been rebuilt a couple of times and the endpoint security product was not a part of the image and it's never been caught. You got to continuously confirm that you're 100% deployed and taking action to get deployed, because all it takes is one machine. And there was a scenario from, I think it was about 2 years ago, with Bitdefender and their cloud product. They had applied security patches across a whole host of servers. One server had an issue where the update didn't get applied. That was the server that got hacked, and they ended up leaking some information off of that machine. So they had a whole host of these things. Every other machine got patched and every other machine was safe because of that patch. The one that didn't get it was the one that got compromised. And so that kind of comes back a little bit.
The bots are knocking on every IP. They're looking, they're out pinging everything all the time.
They just need to get lucky once. You need to get lucky 100% of the time.
Yep.
Right? And then visibility of off-network users. So those folks that are not always connected, how are you getting visibility into what they're doing, what kinds of threats they're coming into contact with, that their protection is running, that everything is working the way that it needs to be, so that when you can't see them, they're still protected. Right? And so that's a lot of stuff to evaluate and take stock on. Right? Cabbage Patch, Pumpkin Patch, Patch Adams, all good patches, but what about Adobe? Right? Adobe needs patches too. What about Java? Right? What about Microsoft Office? Plenty of Microsoft stuff, and as we're talking to folks about patching, we are hearing more and more that they're getting Microsoft patches out, and I think Microsoft was the number one purveyor of getting exploited for so long that everybody has caught on, and everybody's working hard to make sure that they're getting Windows patches out and Office patches out and SQL and all the Microsoft stuff. But Microsoft is no longer the number one exploited publisher. Right? Adobe is, and it's not just with Adobe Reader, but that's a huge one. And it's a great one to go after, because I guarantee you everybody on this call has Adobe Reader deployed to almost every machine that they have in their environment. It's on workstations, it's on laptops, and if it's not on there today, it's going to get on there the first time you need to open up a PDF to look at a manual or get help or solve a problem or whatever, right? So getting those things patched. And we see a lot of old Adobe out there that's not getting updated, so those exploits just continue to exist in that environment. So even if your endpoint security is running full speed ahead, if you've got a firewall without next-gen firewall capabilities, right, you're going to be just streaming command and control code right to that machine, looking for an exploit that's going to be effective against your endpoint, that's going to open up a hole or allow data to come through or deploy some kind of a ransomware or whatever. Number one way to stop that stuff, remove the exploit by plugging that hole, right? Every known exploit has a patch. So anytime you hear about somebody getting compromised through some kind of exploit kit, they could have stopped that by having the correct patch applied. If you look at something like a nuclear exploit kit, right, that thing is coming in and it's looking for exploits in Silverlight, in Office, in Adobe, in Java, and one other thing that's escaping my mind. And so if you're mostly patched, then it's just going to use the exploit that you didn't patch. You have to be fully patched to be able to defeat something like nuclear or Angler exploit kits. Number 4, Active Directory security. Now, this middle bullet really concerns me. This says make sure users are not local admins. I say make everybody an admin, right? You need help running that environment. Get your end users in there helping you out. Just kidding, everybody. Just kidding. Before you start making those updates, right? Just like the rest of the network, and like we were talking about at the top of the hour, right? Not built by you potentially, maybe not even built by your predecessor or their predecessor. For a lot of companies that have been in business for a long time, like us, right? That AD is old. Lots of hands. Even if you've updated it to 2012, maybe we've got some cutting edge folks on this phone who have updated it to 2016, right? The policies are probably from a long time ago. How many GPOs do you have? How many of those are applicable? How many folks are managing users that haven't worked there in 4 years or 5 years?
Or somebody
right?
who changed roles and somebody had all sorts of access and now they shouldn't, right?
Exactly. Yeah, they keep adding it, and that's a loyal employee that's been around for 15 or 20 years. They've been in lots of departments and now they have access in all those departments. So keeping track of that is a lot of work. Go ahead.
Right, and that's not the fact that you don't trust that employee, but they should have the proper access, because we know if an environment gets breached, the first place hackers go is to look in Active Directory and find somebody who has a bunch of access so they can snoop around with their credentials.
Exactly. Yeah. So whether that employee is trusted or not, right? And trusted employees are the ones that you not necessarily need to watch out for the employee, but you need to watch out for their access, right? So they have lots of access, or just folks that have lots of access. If that user account gets compromised through no fault of the employee, right, then the attackers are going to be able to do whatever it is that they want to do. And so it's really not a trust model. And this is, I think, one of the challenges that we have when we're talking with organizations that are smaller enterprise. So not small businesses, but kind of this maybe 75 employees to a couple 300 is the notion that we trust our folks so we don't have to worry about some of this stuff. They're not going to be going to the finance server if that's not their job, right? But if their credentials get compromised, whoever's accessing those credentials will be going to the finance server. In fact, that may be their first stop, right? And so it's not always about trust, and putting in controls and restricting the environment and going to this least privileged access model. That's not about your relationship with your employees. It's about uptime and security, right? And that's how it really needs to be pervaded. And I do see a lot of folks kind of struggling with that because people are taken aback a little bit of, well, why can't I access that? Well, what's the big secret? It's not that it's a secret. It's your role doesn't need that access. And if you get compromised, we're going to eliminate where that hacker can go based on what your credentials allow you to do. And it can be a hard thing to understand. Last, but certainly not least, third-party assessment, right? A lot of value comes in here. Find out where you're strong. Find out where are you too strong, right? So one of the things that we frequently help clients identify is not just where are they not spending enough, where do they need to reconfigure, but where have they overdone it? Where are they overspending? Right? So you bought a massive firewall, and we had a client not that long ago. He wanted to buy just a couple of really big firewalls for about a 60 employee environment. And I think what the thought process was bigger was better. And we finally and honestly, he was never going to get the budget for that anyway. But we finally talked him down and convinced him, hey man, you're going to have all of these features. Let's size the box correctly so that you can afford it, and then you can manage it, and you can have something that's still going to grow with you, but be appropriate. And then you can take some of this other budget and shore up your endpoint security, or look at maybe some kind of network scanning tool like a Tenable or a Qualys or one of these things, but be able to spread that budget around and really take care of the whole environment versus just the perceived coming in through the internet type threats. Very important place to be focused on. It's certainly not the only place, right? So figuring out where you're overspending and where you're underspending, huge. Just a second set of eyes for a lot of folks that we work with. they're working on this stuff day to day. It's pretty easy to overlook stuff when you knew what your intent was. You knew how you set it up. What you didn't know is who came in and changed it, or that time that you were troubleshooting, you opened it up and never came back in and closed it down. Assessments can help you identify this kind of stuff. Can also give you a document that you can use with upper management to justify the agenda that you have for improving your network security. So you've been saying we need to go from firewall to next-gen firewall or UTM. You've been saying we need mobile device control. You've been saying we need these features on the endpoint, or we have these features on the endpoint. I need your permission to enable them, right? So talk to a lot of folks. They bought application control and management has said that they want it off. Well, this is an easy way to up your game with security, controlling those applications. Folks don't need to have some of these apps running that don't help the business, that need to be patched, that contain exploits and weaknesses, right? And so being able to get control over that, and this kind of document can help you make that case. So a lot of folks, I think, look at this sometimes and feel like this is going to show all the stuff that I'm missing, but a lot of times it supports your argument. And if you are missing that stuff, getting this done so that you can get it corrected and get on the road to Wellville, a great way to go. Right, and this is definitely something that we can help with. All of these things are things that we can help with. Some great resources out there if you're trying to do your own assessment and figure out where do you need to be, what are some best practices, how do you get your experience level up to that next tier, right? NIST.gov and SANS.org are a couple of great places to check out. If you're in the situation that a lot of our clients are in, and it's not that you don't know what to do, it's not that you don't know how to do it, you just simply have 5 million things to do every single hour. That's where we can come into play, right, and back you up. We can not only give you great advice, show you the optimal way to configure some of these things or help you out with assessments, but can stick around and get some of the work done so that you can be focused on all the things that you need to do, and let us help you get to that next good level.
Yeah, fantastic. That is awesome stuff, Pete Greco. Thank you very much. I think you finished within our half an hour time frame. So everybody who attended it, yeah, you totally nailed it. So everybody who came today, thank you very much. We really appreciate you have a lot of things you could do, and you chose to spend 30 minutes with us. So truly appreciate that, Pete. Great presentation. Our account execs will shoot you a note or give you a call, follow up, and see if you have any questions and see if we can help you out in any way. In the meantime, have a fantastic balance of your day and week, and hopefully we'll talk soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.